Was that you, Becky, doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. So what we've been doing in defence equipment and support for about the past 10 years now is we've been doing learning from experience workshop facilitation using a particular method. And it's this method that I'll be taking you through this afternoon. I'll give you a chance to read this slide. This slide was given to me by our second permanent undersecretary a long time ago, and it's from the Winnie the Pooh book of business management. And it describes perfectly how organisations keep on doing the same thing and bumping their heads without stopping to think, what could we do differently? And that's exactly the position that we were in this time last year. And it's the anniversary today of when the crisis really came to the fore. So we would normally run a workshop depending on the number of participants, size or complexity of the project, the length of the time since the last workshop, and the amount of preparation completed beforehand. But that wasn't possible to do in this situation, so we had to work completely differently. We would normally use brown paper and post-it notes, and in a project management environment, we would put milestones up on that piece of paper, and people would look at what happened around those milestones. The mantra that we use is, what was the issue, what was the impact, and what's the insight? So you ask the team to discuss what went well and what didn't go so well. You write them on the post-it notes, you place them on the timeline, and then you rotate around the teams. But we couldn't do that because we were all distributed. We couldn't get into the office. You'll notice that I'm saying a lot at the moment of things that we couldn't do. I'll come on to what we could do in a little while. As you're building up your data, and this is data, it's not lessons, your board will start to look a bit like this. And the reason that I use red and green is very simple. Red post-it notes means negative things have happened. Green means positive things have happened. And it's quite deliberate because in a project or an event, there will be a lot of good, but people often forget about the good things that happen in an event because they'll concentrate on the negative things. So in terms of grouping things together, you then cluster them up. I don't know if people are familiar with something called grounded theory, where you work from your data upwards to create your theory. In this case, your theory is the lesson that comes out of the end of it. So we would organise the post-it notes along the timeline, and we would look at them in terms of the functions that happen within a project. So we would normally come out with something that looks a bit like this. And if you can see at the top, you've got the key points, you've got your key events, but at the bottom, you've got your priorities and groupings. And that's where the lessons actually occur. And those lessons can be clustered into, in our environment, because it's a project management environment, around the major themes that are within the project management handbook. So that's commercial elements, project planning elements, finance elements, and resource planning. And the next stage is to summarize those key lessons and then provide insight into what people are doing. Now, all of this I would normally do in a workshop with people. But that didn't happen this time. So we had to work a way of doing this electronically. And with the key lessons that come out at this time, you're looking at what's the real impact from that lesson and what you would do differently. And you might have 20 or 30 key events and key points that go into 5 groupings or priorities, and you may only have 1 or 2 lessons that come out of each of those priorities. And that's the really important piece, is to deal with not the noise, but the key lessons. And it's the discussion around those that can sometimes take quite a lot of time to get through. At the end of that discussion phase, the lessons are placed onto an impact control diagram. I don't know if people are familiar with an impact control diagram, but that's where you have high impact, high control lessons, low impact, low control lessons, and the other way around. And the important lessons for a project manager are the high impact, high control lessons, because those are the lessons that the project manager can deal with. But the other lessons that are very interesting and very important are the ones that aren't necessarily high control, but have a high impact and are outside the control of the project manager and are often given to the project manager by the organisation. And that's the piece of work that goes back into the organisation as a management action plan to deal with the lessons. So that's the way that we would normally do it.